Welcome to There Is a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell, and I'm an exercise physiologist and personal trainer. I'm the owner of Maxwell's Fitness Programs, and I've been in business since 1994. The purpose of the Method to the Madness is to get to the bottom of what really works and what doesn't work, hence the name, the Method to the Madness. But it's also to explain to you that with this science, it doesn't have to be more complicated than you might be led to believe that it is, because it's really not. It's a lot simpler than many make it out. All right. So let's get to today's topic, which is expanding the comfort zone. Before I get to that, let me thank our first original sponsor, Jonathan and Lynn Gilden of the Gilden Group at Realty Pros. They currently have over 285 star reviews on Zillow. And just today, I check out the Instagram. I put one of my pictures in. You know, we have to always promote, I suppose, or it's a good thing to do for promoting good stuff. And once again, they sold another house. Well, you're not going to sell a lot of houses if you're not good at what you do. I can promise you that. I've had some not so hot real estate agents in the past. So if you need help selling your home or looking for something, give them a shout at thegildengroup.com. All right, so now let's talk today about the old comfort zone. I've had a client for many, many years, Mr. Johnson, Jerry Johnson, and God, he might be my one of my longest standing clients as far as how long I've been training him. It's been over 25 years or so, man. That's crazy to think about how long that is. And he's got a lot of great sayings, you know, things that he's heard and he repeats. And, you know, some of them were new to me at the times. Others were just great little sayings. One of them he used to always say is inch by inch, anything's a cinch, Cappy. That's what he always says. And I'm like, yep. But one that really stands out and fits this perfectly is how he says, you know, Cappy, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. And that is very, very true. So I want to talk about that. You know, improving our fitness, improving our health, you know, doing the things that we can do to improve. It takes a lot of work. I mean, it takes a lot of consistent work. And I'm not so sure that everybody knows that or buys into it. I'm not quite sure on that, but I know that oftentimes shortcuts are available and shortcuts are sometimes wanted. So let's talk about the science in that. You know, this is a social science, of course. First thing I think it's important to understand is that that's kind of human nature, all right? So we always have to start with that's human nature. When we want things to be easier than they are, or easier, or when they're hard and we want them to be easier, that's kind of human nature. All right. So we're just designed that way. I think I said it. I know I said it. I just don't remember which podcast it was in the previous week or so where I said, you know, we would rather lay down than sit. We would rather sit than stand. We would rather walk than run. I mean, that's just kind of how the body is. I mean, the body wants the path of least resistance all the time. I mean, I really can't think of an example where it doesn't want that. All right. So that's normal. That it's very, very normal. But the thing is, that doesn't work when it comes to fitness. And we just simply have to ride that. We have to override that. Now, sometimes I do think people think that it should come easier than it does, and that's just a myth. One of the things that has always rankled me a little bit is when I'm speaking, when I'm talking, or it's maybe on social media or whatever, but you know, it comes up fairly frequently, and I've spoken to other fitness people and they've said the same thing. It really gets under their skin. I don't know if it really rankles me anymore because, we have to learn to handle things like this and then discuss it. But I could see where it would rankle a lot of people. But they'll say things like, well, it's easy for you because I guess genetically you have it. And, that's just not true. I mean, is it true that good genetics will help somebody lose weight? Yeah, I mean, there's some truth to that. Is it true that some people are genetically predisposed to have more muscularity and athleticism? Yes. Athleticism is very different for everybody, meaning there's different types of athleticism. But yes, of course, genetics takes a role in everything. There's no question about it. We all have better genetics and worser genetics at certain things. I mean, of course. But as I've talked about before in our newsletter and on other podcasts, genetics only takes into account 25% of what is going on with fitness. So 25% isn't huge. It's something. Like, of course it's something. And by the way, that's a maximum 25%. It's not 75% though, which is largely our actions, but I don't want to go into a whole thing on genetics. But it still takes a lot of work for anybody to improve their fitness. So when I've had that statement before, when I've been speaking, I'll say, well, you know what? I mean, it's not easy. I will sometimes joke. It's like, I forget who that famous comedian was, but he said, yeah, it's not easy being me. No, I know what it was. It was from As Good as It Gets. And Jack Nicholson's character looked at his friend and he says, do you really think it's easy being me? And his friend goes, no, good point. Because a great movie, by the way, but, Jack Nicholson was so OCD that, that's obviously not easy to go through life like that. But when you are striving for fitness, it's not easy. It's not easy for anybody. I think what we've learned when we've accepted it, though, is that it's easier to put in the uncomfortable work daily than it is to deal with the uncomfortable feelings that not being in shape brings about, whether it be, and again, I'm just going to speak generally here. I'll speak specifically about me here in a minute, but, generally speaking, if somebody's in a lot of physical pain because of arthritis, okay, it's not comfortable being them. So I'm pretty sure they would rather put in their time and exercise in the morning, which isn't going to be comfortable in other ways. Like maybe they'd rather be sleeping, but instead they got up an hour early so they can go to the gym and sweat, which I'm not sure, but maybe that's not comfortable for them. They're going to have to sacrifice. Like there is definitely going to have to have some sacrifice for us to get further down the road. So for me, I wouldn't choose it differently, so don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining here. But I eat very well. I eat very clean because I don't like to eat poorly. I don't like how I feel in general when I eat poorly. So I eat a pretty darn low-fat diet for one, which is less than 50 grams or so of fat per day. I don't eat a lot of sugar. I eat hardly any processed foods. I eat extremely clean. And I do this, I always tell people, try to do it at least 80% of the time. I'm doing it probably 90 or higher percent of the time. I don't feel like I'm depriving myself. I really don't. I just think that life is a lot more than simple pleasure of getting high on a sugar rush. I just, to me, it's not a hard choice. But it is not easy to eat clean like that all the time, which means that if I go to a ball game, and anybody that knows me knows that I go to a lot of sporting events and concerts and things, I love going to sporting events. That means I'm not going to get the chicken fingers. That means I'm not going to get a fully loaded Coca-Cola. That means I'm not going to get the nachos and cheese. I'm not going to get a hot dog. I'm not going to get a nasty hamburger. I'm not going to get cotton candy. Like, I'm not going to get these things. I mean, if they have something relatively decent there, I'll buy something. Sometimes a soft pretzel, which no isn't the greatest thing in the world, but it's low in fat, low in sugar. I'll get that, but even that I hate to do just because why am I paying $10 for a stupid pretzel? But we'll bring food into the game. So, I mean, that's not a sacrifice to me. But at the same time, if you say, oh, it's easy for you, it's like, oh, it is? Because easy for me would be like doing what 95% of the population does, which is, well, food's a little bit overpriced, but I'm going to walk up to the concession stand and I'm going to go ahead and just order me a big old thing of wings, and I'm going to get some chicken fingers. And man, we were at a Rays game about 2 weeks ago, and I don't know, they were selling these like super sized nachos, and I swear I wanted to take a picture of this dude's nacho order, but I'm like, I can't, he's going to see me, going to be an incident. I'm like, oh my God, Ellen, look at that thing. I mean, it's like, was I looking at it like, oh, look how great that is? I'm like, no, it's disgusting. Like, we were trying to guess how many calories were in this man's plate of nachos, and we both were somewhere around 3,000 calories just for his plate of nachos. I mean, would that taste good? I mean, probably. I mean, so we love salt, sugar, fat. I mean, we love that. We are attracted to that. So yes, we want that. But the bigger brain up there has to go, nope, this isn't good for me. So that's not easy, It's not easy to get up every day between 4:30 and 5 and start my exercise because I want to get my workout in before I train any clients because I know it'll help my mood. It'll put me in the right frame of mind for the rest of the day. That's not easy. When people say, oh, it's easy for you, I'm like, okay, so you get up at 4:30 and you get to a gym and you open it up and then you jump on the bike and you start going after it and then you hit your weights and you push yourself and all that stuff. I mean, it's not easy, but again, I'm not complaining. I just want everybody to understand that everybody has to put in the work to get better. Everybody has to go through the uncomfortable times to get better, all right? So that's the first part of it. The second part of it is that it's going to be uncomfortable to really push our boundaries. I mean, if we want to get better at anything, we're going to have to learn to be uncomfortable. I talked about this earlier in the week when I said, some people are like in strength training, some clients will be like, when is this going to be easier? And I'll say, well, it's not because I'm going to make it harder. I mean, we can't like just, let's say, put on 50 pounds in the leg extension, put on 50 pounds on the chest press, all just examples, 50 pounds on the pull down, and then do that, and then do it again in 2 days, and do it again in 2 days, and think, okay, it's definitely gotten easier than day one. Well, of course. And that's it. I mean, that's just not how it works. You have to continue to make yourself uncomfortable in the gym. Improving your cardio is the same way. To improve your cardio, you're going to have to be uncomfortable. It is totally not fair and not true when you see somebody who's, and again, yes, there's a genetic component, but when somebody is pushing it and in great cardiovascular condition to say, oh, that's just easy for them. No, it's not, because studies actually go the other way around on that. It's the polar opposite. In other words, the more fit you get, the higher the percentage of VO2 max you have to work out to get further benefits. Can you maintain your fitness with lesser benefits? Yes, the studies show that. But to improve your fitness, and I've been talking all week about this, to improve your cardiorespiratory fitness means to improve your left ventricle, to make it stronger so you have better cardiac output and better stroke volume. That's what I'm talking about. To improve it, you have to work at higher percentages of your VO2 max. I mean, that is just fact. Some studies state that for a person with the VO2 max over 60, they have to work at percentages of 90 to 95% of their VO2 max, which obviously that's would be in intervals, but they would have to do that to get any further benefit. That means the more fit you are, the more work it takes to improve, and many people are willing to put in that work. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to put in the work. Like, oh, just do it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying own it. Owning it is understanding it, and owning it is the most important thing. I mean, I've been doing this a really, really long time. And I understand that people like to protect their self-esteem. I get it. I think everybody knows I have a psych degree. I was a counselor for a while, so not that that makes me all-knowing by any means, no. But what it does mean is we were trained trained with how people are going to get defensive on certain topics and trained on how to handle it. You really can't argue with people like that. But people are going to get defensive, and people don't always want to hear the truth, all right? But the only way we really can get better is to just simply own it. And what I mean by that is there are people that get what I'm saying. They're like, and they'll say to me, dude, I know to get stronger, I'm going to have to push harder than I have. I just haven't had the motivation lately, man. I just been like going through the motions. You know, as a person who believes in compassion and empathy and gets it because I've been there, I mean, absolutely, I know that feeling. I just go, yeah, man, I get it, you know. Well, when you get your mojo back, you know, we'll push. For now, let's, you know, it's better than nothing. Absolutely, because see, that's owning it. That's the key. That's owning it. That's understanding what it takes. Let me give you another example from a client from years ago, and this has to do with the diet. I've told this story before, but I'm going to tell it again. He was coming to the gym because he had to maintain his fitness. He was a pilot, and he had to maintain his blood pressure checks and all this stuff. And, you know, he worked pretty hard in the gym. But me being in the, you know, health and fitness world, especially when I was younger, you know, I want to change the world. So I'm always on him about his diet, even though, like, he really didn't care too much about it. Like, he knew he was a little bit overweight. He wasn't obese by any means. He wasn't terribly out of shape. He just could stand to lose some weight, and he probably made mention of it here or there. But he didn't list it as one of his main goals or anything. He listed getting stronger, improving his endurance, improving his heart, all that kind of stuff. And he worked pretty hard, you know. I had no complaints about his work ethic at all. I was going to say effort, but work ethic works. And but one day he says to me, he says, you know, he goes, look, I get it. He goes, if I'm going to lose weight, I know I have to clean up my diet. I can't eat the crap. I can't just eat what I want and lose weight. He goes, Rob, I absolutely get it, okay? But I also want to tell you, I'm not willing to, because I don't want to give it up right now. I just don't want to do it. So do me a favor and don't bring up my weight, and not like I was calling him fat or all these kind of things, but I just think he made a super solid point that, man, I respect. I wish the client-trainer relationship was always like this. It would be ideal for us. Like, we want to have real conversations. So, you know, he continues, so I wish you just didn't ask about it. And if I ever really decide I'm going to take off my 10 to 20 pounds, you know, then let's have the conversation. You tell me what I need to do. Like, you got it, man. And you know what? It never came up again. And we just worked on him getting stronger and working on his cardio, which he did. And I have so much respect for that. Like, he owned it. So the opposite of that is when people say, well, I don't know. I'm just not sure that, you know, I should be eating all of this blankety blank, you know. I really think it's this. And I want to try this diet that Samantha's doing at work. And I'm like, no, I mean, it's really not that. I mean, it really is the foods we talked about, but it's going to take some work. Well, I just don't know if I have to really give this up. I mean, so-and-so's doing this. And I'm just like, no, like, it's not that. Like, it is going to be sacrifice, you know, as Jerry says. Everybody wants to get to heaven, but nobody wants to die. It is going to take some sacrifice. You don't know how many people I've worked with. And again, I think everybody knows that I don't love working on weight loss. That's why, one of the big reasons why I wrote my book, You Can't Outrun a Poor Diet, because I do know the rules for it. Like, I really do know how to do it, but I also know working with people on it is a total pain in the ass for me, because I can't make people do what they need to do nutritionally. And I can't soften the message for them enough. Like, I just can't. I won't do it. I just won't. That's why I'm like, okay, well, here's the book. Read it. Let's see, what comes out of this for you. Because I'm not going to dilute the message. I'm not going to. I mean, you can't. It's not true. Like, no, I'm sorry, but you can't drink all the wine you want and still lose weight. I mean, you're going to have to sacrifice to lose weight. No, you can't eat all of the candy you want to eat and lose weight. You can't go through a bag of nuts a day and lose weight. You cannot stop for work and get a Frappuccino with 450 calories in it every day on top of all your other meals and lose weight. Like, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So, like, that's the opposite of owning it. We can't make you do things, but, like, it's very important to understand that there isn't things that you're missing. It's just simply, maybe you just don't want to accept what you have to do yet. And I'm okay with that. Like, when I work with people, I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's like, man, I know it's going to take some work. I'm not ready to do that yet. I'm like, I get it. I've been there. There are days that I don't feel like pushing as much as I need to get what I want. But I don't make an excuse. I mean, people that know me know that. I don't make an excuse. I simply say, nope, I didn't put in the effort. I mean, that's all there is to it. Oh, you're too hard on yourself. I'm like, no, I'm really not. Like, I didn't put in the effort. Or if I'm running a 5K or something like that, which I've run hundreds through my life, and anybody that's run a 5K all out knows, it takes a considerable amount of pain to run your best time. I mean, it hurts, and I don't mean orthopedically. I just mean, like, your muscles are burning, your heart's in your throat, you're running red line the whole time. The only thing you really want to do is stop, right? Again, human nature. You're running, you want to walk. You're walking, let's sit down. Sit down, let's lay down. Human nature. So it takes everything you have to go maximal. It just does. And a lot of times, I won't have the juice for that. And I just have to accept that. Like, are you happy with your time? Me? Not really. Oh, well, could you have done better? Run faster. Oh, you don't think it's this? I'm like, no, I just didn't push. I got to a certain point. I'm like, oh, the hell with it. And, I accept it. And I accept that if I'm not going to run my best effort, I'm not going to run my best time. I mean, yes, there's genetics with everything, so everything is relative. But it's not going to happen. And nothing is going to happen without a considerable amount of work. Somebody is not going to lose 50 pounds unless they put in an incredible amount of work every day for their exercise and they're eating healthy. And yes, they're going to be sacrificing. I think too often people in this country just think that they don't have to sacrifice anything. Everything is just going to happen the way they want it to, and they don't have to sacrifice anything. And that's just simply not the way it works. It's just not. I can tell you right now from somebody with 30 years of experience, everybody that has reached their goals has put in a tremendous amount of work to do it. So you either really, really want to do it or you don't. And when you don't, the best thing you can do to help yourself is own it. Just go, no, I gave up on that, man. It's like, I gave up on that. We have people sometimes that will come up with every reason in the world, why they don't want to do something. And I'm like, yes, this exercise sucks. Like, it's hard for everybody. Take the leg extension. It's a hard exercise because the quads are one of the largest muscle groups in the whole body, and getting close to failure means that you're pumping a ton of lactic acid into 4 very large muscles. That's going to burn anybody once you get to fatigue. And that exercise is just going to burn. Like, I don't know anybody that likes it, but they also know, well, if I really want my quads stronger, it's going to take a lot of work. I'm going to have to go harder. And kind of like with the running, not kind of, but exactly like the running, that as we get closer to hitting a milestone for strength training, like maybe we've been like hitting a rep number of 11 over and over and over on a certain exercise, it's like, well, to get to 12 is not just going to happen because it happens. It's going to take an incredible amount of effort to push through. And we just have to understand that to do it, though, is worth it. And so I'm not sure, why. I don't know why some people get that more easily than others. I don't know. Like, I know for me, when I was younger and I wasn't in shape, when I was in like junior high school and early high school, I felt like crap not being in shape. I did not feel good about myself physically nor mentally. I just did not like how I felt. Maybe that's it. And then maybe seeing the light by going, well, I'm going to do what I know I really should do. And I did. And then I did it again and again and again. I'm like, you know what? This effort every day, whether it be eating right and exercise, whichever one it was, is worth it. Like, it might be uncomfortable at the moment to pass on the big gulp cola, but then the rest of the day goes pretty damn well because I didn't give in the junk food. And I'm pretty sure, I'm relatively sure, can't prove this type of thing. This is a sociology question. But I'm pretty sure that that's why the country is in the state that it is physically, where we have a 70% overweight obesity crisis, because I'm not sure people want to put in the work day in and day out. And now that marketing and everything else has just gotten so much better at getting our attention, so many things are grabbing us and telling us what we can do to make our lives easier, we jump at it. And there's a book I just read called The Comfort Crisis, and the author talks about the same thing. That's just my belief system. And I believe that once people get it, they get it, but it's very hard to get them there. So I just want to leave you with understanding that. Just please understand that there is no other way through it. There is no easier, softer way. That to get where you want to get physically, whether it be 50 pounds or 10 pounds, is going to take work. It's just, you're going to have to sacrifice. If people are telling you you're not, well, they're lying to you. Okay, they're trying to sell you something that you can buy, but they're selling you a lie. It's going to take work, but the work is absolutely going to be worth it. Every day, you just get up every day, one day at a time, and say, this is what I'm going to do today. And you'll get to the end of the day, and if you did it, you're going to be like, that wasn't so bad, and I feel better for doing this the right way than the easy way. All right? As they say, life begins at the other end of the comfort zone. We have to get out of our comfort zone to get better. All right? Now, let me thank Overhead Door of Daytona Beach. Jeff and Zach Hawk are the owners. Man, you talk about two individuals that like to work. Zach, sometimes we have to reel in. It's like, oh my goodness, he'll get going so hard, he cramps out on the floor, and he's a pretty big boy to lift up, and I mean all muscle. So he gets it, and they get it with their company too, because Garage Doors, Overhead Garage Door, is the absolute best around. They've been in business for 100 years, and just like I said, with our great real estate agents, that if you're in business for a long time, you're obviously doing something right. So if you need help or a new garage door, check them out at overheaddoordaytona.com.